Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan and seen on Fox 47 television. Very nice to have you with us this morning. It's dark and early, and we hear that there will be a snow pattern again this weekend, this time not just for West Michigan, but for Central Michigan, Mid-Michigan, and the Detroit area, too. We'll find out the details a little bit later. In fact, the Ohio Valley is supposed to get nailed with a snowstorm, and I'm going to be in Cleveland on Saturday night for a book signing, so it could be tough sledding for me getting back here to the state capital area. Tonight, I will be at Walnut Hills Country Club for a book signing event. Invite Yourself to the Party is my newest book. InviteYourselfToTheParty.com is where you can find out all the details. But it's happy hour from 5 till 7, open to anyone who wants to come to Walnut Hills Country Club tonight, and we'll see you there. Even if you don't want a book, come out and say hello. Have some holiday cheer with us there at the restaurant called Copper right inside Walnut Hills Country Club. We're going to talk with a couple of members of the United States Congress today. Mark Schauer, the Democrat who is on his way out, and Pete Hoekstra, the congressman from West Michigan, the Republican from Holland, who is on his way out as well. We're going to talk about the DREAM Act, and there could be a vote today, too, in Washington, D.C. for a health bill aimed at helping those who became sick after working at Ground Zero. We'll talk about, too, the unemployment extension. 13 extra months, and also the extension of the Bush tax cuts for everybody, not just for what President Obama called the working middle class. State Representative Rick Jones will be along shortly, too, because the Michigan officials are seeking to spend $6 million on same-sex benefits for state workers and their dependents, and we'll want to find out what you think about that. Bob Friedlander will join us from Toys R Us. I wonder if Toys R Us is open early all week and all month, and late maybe too, because the hot toys is what Bob Friedlander will tell us about. He's the Toys R Us toy expert. And do all the toys have to be electronic? Are they expensive? What are kids pleading with Santa for this Christmas? We're also going to find out about the Earl of Spencer, Charles Spencer, Princess Diana's brother, is coming to Grand Rapids. We'll find out about his visit. And also Lou Holtz, the guy who coached Notre Dame. He coached at Minnesota and South Carolina. He's a member, I think, at Augusta National, and a college football analyst on television. Lou Holtz will be with us later this morning, too. First gentleman, Dan Mulhern, will be with us. In fact, I'm going to be with him later today taping a television show in Detroit with Carol Kane. That's called Michigan Matters. And he and I will chat a little bit, too. And Allison Buckneberg from Delta Vacations are among the guests we're going to talk to this morning about travel. One of the things I want to ask Allison Buckneberg about is last week we talked with her about these TSA security screenings. And now Khloe Kardashian, do you know who that is? One of the dark-haired sisters, celebrities, is the latest to speak out against the TSA. She doesn't want airport security touching her ever again. She says, quote, they're basically just raping you in public, end quote, is what she has said. She said, I got asked the other day, do you want a screening or to get patted down? And she said, quote, I don't want that x-ray to see everything, honey. She's 26 years old, and she says that the TSA agents have been a little overzealous. She says they're aggressive. And they say, okay, I'm going to be patting you down. I'm going to be touching the crease of your bottom, is a nice way to say what she said, I guess. And she thinks it's inappropriate. And remember Donna D'Errico from Baywatch? She said she was singled out for her good looks and forced to go through what she called a naked TSA scanner. And she said security agents were snickering on the sidelines. And Donna D'Errico, who's 42 years old, said, quote, it's my personal belief that they pulled me aside because they thought I was attractive. It isn't right to hide behind the veil of security and safety in order to take advantage of women. So, are these drama queens? Do they like the attention? Are they really upset? Or do they think, I'm beautiful, so they want to see me naked? Or are they right? The Lockerbie bomber is reportedly near death and expected to pass away within days. That's what they said well over a year ago when the Scotties let him out of prison because they thought his death was imminent. He got home to Libya to a hero's welcome after blowing up that Pan Am flight over Lockerbie, and now maybe his days are numbered. Maybe, who knows? The Republican conference has selected U.S. Congressman Dave Camp as the next chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Terrific. He's going to be replacing Sander Levin, another guy from Michigan, the congressman from Royal Oak. And so that's good news for Michigan. We're getting members of Congress in high-profile positions in Washington, D.C. Fred Upton was just named. Joanne Paul, wasn't he, the congressman from West Michigan, to chair a committee yesterday?
That's right. He's going to be looking over issues facing the auto industry and other economic issues in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, and I think Congressman Rogers is up to be chair of the Intelligence Committee, if I'm not mistaken. So
Right.
we would be. And bad news, though, very sad news for the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, in Detroit.
That's right. She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. You know, doctors say the prognosis is not real good, about a 5% chance of survival for 5 years. And while Patrick Swayze, the actor, died, there are several who have survived, including Apple CEO Steve Jobs and U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, and Aretha Franklin has canceled all of her appearances and had some sort of surgical event last week that they said went well. But our thoughts and prayers with the Queen of Soul, who is obviously a treasure to the music business, but to Michigan, where she is from and where she lives. Now, the other news this morning is that those three, the police have stopped looking for those 3 young boys that are, I guess, presumed missing and dead, but there is some reason to believe they may be alive.
Well, that's right. The aunt of the father, John Skelton, says she talked to Skelton. He said that he took the boys because he witnessed some disturbing activity going on between one of the boys and his estranged wife, Tanya, and that the boys were seen at a donut shop in Ohio 3 days after being reported missing. So there's the possibility there, but officials are saying we've looked, we've searched, we've exhausted what we can, and it doesn't look good for the survival of those boys.
But the father is saying that that they're okay. How would he know
Yeah, but he's
that?
saying that, but he also said that he gave him to somebody. He also said he left him by the side of a road, so I don't know that police can really believe what he says.
Okay.
But, you know, his parents seem to believe that he would never hurt those boys, and his aunt apparently believes it as well.
There were 240 new jobs available in Holland, Michigan yesterday at Gentex, and so now the auto supply company is sorting through the resumes. Apparently, people stood in line in the cold and the snow when the doors opened at 8 o'clock in the morning for those jobs. And in Stanton, Michigan, there's a rescue driver with the Montcalm County Emergency Services, and he is facing negligent homicide charges. There was a fatal accident, very sad story, because the 70-year-old was responding to an emergency call.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, I think you find those stories all the time when people are traveling at a rate of speed, hoping to get to an emergency as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, things happen and others are hurt, others uninvolved in the process. So it is a tragic situation. The fact that charges have been filed, not really surprising, but I'm sure it's nothing that this gentleman ever thought he'd experience.
No, he was trying to get to the emergency in his emergency vehicle with the lights and the sirens going. So he ran through a stop sign and broadsided a car, killing the driver. The driver in the accident, as we say, was the 35-year-old Stephanie Bass. And there's, when you hear those sirens, I guess now with the good radio systems and those sorts of things in the car, sometimes you wouldn't hear or see those sirens, but it's dangerous when you're passing through an intersection with an emergency vehicle trying to get there.
Well, they certainly have the right of way, but you have to, as well as a driver of an emergency vehicle, realize that you're traveling through a populated area, and you have to expect anything to happen as well.
Who is Curtis Jackson?
He's 50 Cent.
Okay, he's 50 Cent. I feel like $1 million. He's only 50 Cent. He's a movie star or something, a musician?
Yeah, he's a rapper, and he's making the transformation to television and to the movies, the big screen, and his new film, filmed in Grand Rapids, is going to be premiered there nationally and internationally.
All right. Gun. It'll be shown December 15th at Celebration Cinema North. And Val Kilmer, I know who that is. He's going to be there, too. He's in the movie.
Batman.
Right. He was Batman.
Yeah.
We want to say congratulations to our Northwood University Leader of the Day. A soldier from Wyoming is the recipient of one of the U.S. military's highest honors. It's Army Staff Sergeant Daniel Hayes, and he was awarded the Silver Star this week for helping save 60 soldiers who were ambushed in Afghanistan. He serves with the 101st Airborne Division based at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. 6 other members of his unit also were given the Silver Star, and it's with our gratitude that we extend our Northwood University Leader of the Day award to him. The Dow yesterday gained 13 points. The S&P was up 5, and the NASDAQ gained 11 points. I guess the housing industry is taking another hit. Rising interest rates this week. The 30-year fixed rate rised a full 0.5% in recent weeks. That causes monthly payments to go up. And there was a time when it was a great idea to buy a house, and it may still be in case the interest rates continue to rise. And politically speaking, we'll talk to our members of Congress about this shortly, but the House approved a massive government spending bill by a slim margin yesterday, and that legislation will fund the government at current levels through much of the next year, we understand. Joanne Paul, any last-second thoughts?
You're the greatest.
Thank you, darling.
It's my only thought.
It's 18 after the hour. She's Joanne Paul in for Gary Austin. I'm Michael Patrick Shields. State Representative Rick Jones, the Republican from Grand Ledge, who will be a state senator when the legislature convenes, and he'll be with us in 4 minutes. Well, God save the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. She has pancreatic cancer and has canceled all of her upcoming events through early next year. She had surgery last week at a Detroit hospital. But the University of Michigan is saying that people with pancreatic cancer have just a 5% chance of living for 5 years. That disease, you'll remember, killed actor Patrick Swayze. And Apple CEO Steve Jobs and U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg have survived the disease, though. So our thoughts and prayers with Aretha Franklin.
Come on, baby, and rescue me, 'cause I need you by my side. Can't you see that I'm lonely?
23 minutes after the hour, it's Michael Patrick Shields, heard on radio stations all across the state of Michigan. Mount Pleasant, you bet. Petoskey, Traverse City, Hastings, the state capital of Lansing, Saginaw, Manistee, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Ludington, and Muskegon. And I think we're all in for some snow this weekend, from what we understand. The West Michigan's been getting hit pretty hard with the white fluffy stuff, but the rest of us have been spared to this moment. And not so this weekend. We'll get full details a little bit later this morning. I'm happy to say that I'm driving this 2007 Chevy Suburban. It's a big old bronze car with about 40,000 miles on it, but it feels like brand new, and I'm test driving it for Cheryl Freeborough at Hyundai of Lansing. It's available for only $27,000. That's less than the Blue Book value. If you want to take this car away from me, this 2007 Chevy Suburban, and believe me, you can fit hockey bags, you can fit a whole family, you can fit anything you need in this very safe big truck. It handles like a car, though. It's very comfortable. It's like being in a first-class cabin. Just call Hyundai of Lansing, and Cheryl Freeborough will set you up. If you need a little pampering this holiday season, it's the Stephen L. Marvin Salon. They have gift certificates. That would be a great gift to send somebody there for the day, for a manicure, pedicure, or massage, or a haircut. They also have holiday gift sets from Aveda. So it's the Stephen L. Marvin Salon and Wellness Spa in the Lansing area at 517-694-7788. They're on Cedar Street in Holt. It's 25 minutes after the hour yesterday. Anyone 19 or younger would be banned from buying non-alcoholic energy drinks. That's a proposed law in New York, in Long Island. It'd be the first kind in the nation, and the ban would target energy drinks with more than 80 milligrams of caffeine per serving. I guess these energy drinks can cause sleeplessness and high blood pressure in teens, and so we're going to talk with Justin Grinnell a little bit later about I don't know, do you ever drink these energy drinks? Are they talking about Red Bull? Is that an energy drink? Or is it Rockstar, Monster, some of those other ones? We'll get the skinny on all that. And tonight we're going to find out who Barbara Walters thinks is the most fascinating person in her ABC special. There is a number of celebrities on the list who made the list, and we want to know who is the most fascinating to her. The list includes Betty White, Justin Bieber, Sandra Bullock, LeBron James, Sarah Palin, Kate Middleton, who would be the new princess, and Jennifer Lopez. So who will get the nod tonight from Barbara Walters? And she's going to have that special right after her long interview with Oprah Winfrey. And Oprah Winfrey becomes emotional, apparently, in this taping. And she says that she is not a lesbian. She said she's not even kind of a lesbian. And she says it irritates her that people think she's lying. And she said, if I was a lesbian, why would I want to hide it? So she goes on record, finally, Oprah Winfrey, and says, nope, Not me, even though she's very close friends with Gayle King. Christina Aguilera might be the most fascinating person of the moment because she's got some semi-nude photos of her that have surfaced on the internet, and apparently they were taken illegally from her personal stylist. And the photos were taken in the privacy of Christina Aguilera's home, and she's very frustrated that these things have made it out into the public. Apparently she's, standing in her walk-in closet topless. All right? Big deal, right? 27 minutes after the hour. Aaron Sorkin, who created The West Wing, is really giving it to Sarah Palin these days. He is really upset with her show, Sarah Palin's Alaska, because he says on that show she shot an animal for political gain, and it's akin to a snuff film. Because in the latest episode of Sarah Palin's Alaska, the politician went hunting with her father and shot a caribou. And so Aaron Sorkin says that Sarah Palin is deranged, a witless bully, and a phony pioneer girl. And he said that the Learning Channel should be ashamed of itself for broadcasting her truly awful reality show. How do you really feel, Aaron Sorkin? He said that he's upset, and he thinks, that these are snuff films. He said, you weren't killing that animal for food or shelter or fashion. You were killing it for fun on TV. You enjoy killing animals. And so he says, what's the difference between Sarah Palin and Michael Vick, who went to prison for dogfighting charges? Wow. Okay, Aaron Sorkin. The closest he's come to politics, of course, is producing that West Wing show, and now he does not like one bit Sarah Palin's Alaska. They play hockey in Alaska. Remember, Sarah Palin talked about the hockey moms. The difference between a pit bull and a hockey mom is lipstick. The Red Wings yesterday, their mothers weren't too happy. They had to play the Nashville Predators, and according to Ken Kal, ended up on the short end of the stick. Right, Ken?
Thanks, Michael Patrick. J.P. Dumont scored the game-winning goal late in the third period as the Nashville Predators defeated the Red Wings 3-2 last night at Joe Louis Arena. It was the third straight loss for the Red Wings. Detroit plays Montreal in Hockeytown on Friday night. Colin Wilson scored at 19:27 of the first period to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. The Predators outshot Detroit 14-8. Martin Erat scored 49 seconds into the second period. Pavel Datsyuk netted a shorthanded goal while Thomas Holmstrom was off for high sticking. It was 2-1 Predators after 40 minutes. Dumont scored with 5:23 left in regulation. Johan Franzen netted a goal with Jimmy Howard pulled for the extra attacker to make it 3-2. But the Predators held on for their 13th victory of the season. Detroit outshot Nashville 37-24. Again, the final score in Detroit, Nashville 3 and the Red Wings 2. That's the story from Joe Louis Arena. Now back to you, Michael Patrick, in the studio.
Always fun to have an Original Six team come into town tomorrow night. As Ken mentioned, the Montreal Canadiens at the Joe Louis Arena. Pistons lost to the Hornets yesterday, 93-74 in New Orleans. They wrap up their 3-game road trip tomorrow night against the Timberwolves in Minnesota, and not a minute too soon for the Pistons. Michigan State basketball is going to take the court with other elite basketball programs, Duke, Kansas, and Kentucky, in something called the Champions Classic. It's a 3-year event, and it'll feature the Spartans against Duke in November of 2011 at Madison Square Garden. In 2012, the Spartans will tip off against Kansas at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta, and then play Kentucky in Chicago at the United Center in 2013. As Tom Izzo continues to play top-level programs in the early part of the season. The season is over for Lions defensive end Kyle Vanden Bosch and cornerback Alphonso Smith. Both of those starters were put on injured reserve. Oh, we're going to miss watching Vanden Bosch. He underwent surgery in North Carolina for a bulging disc in his neck. The Lions have Green Bay at home at Ford Field on Sunday. And Ndamukong Suh has been fined $15,000 for a hit on quarterback Jay Cutler last Sunday. He shoved Cutler to the ground with a push to the back with both hands, called for unnecessary roughness on the play. He's a tough guy. Urban Meyer, a tough guy. He's been coaching the University of Florida, and he has decided to retire again. Last year, after the bowl game, he took a sabbatical, decided to come back. This year, he's going to coach through the Outback Bowl and then hang it up He said it was health reasons last year. This year, he says it's family reasons. He wants to spend some time cheering on his kids instead of cheering on the college kids he plays for. We'll talk to Lou Holtz a little bit later in the program. He is a TV analyst right now, but spent time coaching at Notre Dame in South Carolina and Minnesota. He had the Jets for a while, too. Lou Holtz will be with us, and we'll get his reaction. Mike Krzyzewski, another win yesterday, his 877th career win as a coach. That moves him past Kentucky legend Adolph Rupp into sole possession of third all-time. And the Vikings, says Leslie Frazier, the new coach or interim coach, says that Brett Favre might play this weekend. We'll see about that. And that is a look at sports. State Representative Rick Jones, who will soon be a state senator from Grand Ledge, a Republican, with us this morning. Nice to talk to you again.
Good morning, Michael.
I understand that state officials want to spend $6 million next year to extend health insurance benefits to unmarried same-sex partners of state employees, plus the partner's dependents. What is the current policy for state workers on same-sex couples?
Well, the current policy is unless you're legally married, there's no coverage. And so yesterday what was proposed by the administration to the Civil Service Commission is that live-in boyfriends, live-in girlfriends, and their dependents that they bring into the home, as long as they live in the house for 12 months, they get full medical coverage. Now, they said an estimate was approximately $6 million. However, I think after talking with numerous union state employees, it would be much higher. In fact, a number of the union employees object to it because they think the costs could cause more layoffs next year when the state is facing a $1.6 billion with a B, problem.
So by extending benefits to live-in boyfriends and girlfriends, we would actually could end up losing jobs overall.
Absolutely. I think it's a big mistake in this time when the state is in a crisis. Next year, we're going to be looking for every million. And who was it? Everett Dirksen that said $1 million here and $1 million there, and pretty soon you got real money.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're going to be looking for next year.
Yeah, and J.P. McCarthy used to say it's not the money, it's the amount. What about, so why all of a sudden, when you say the administration, I presume you're talking about the Granholm administration?
Yes, the Granholm administration has chosen to push this at the 11th hour in her last month in office. And surprise, surprise, a lot of things have been pushed in the last 2 months. And why didn't this come up before the election? Well, I think I know why. Because people would have objected to it. And so now we're seeing this at the last minute. Yesterday, I was the only legislator at the hearing, and I protested and asked them not to vote for it. They did table it, but they did not announce when they would bring it back.
So it's not just same-sex partners. It could be a boyfriend and a girlfriend that decide to live together, shack up, if you will, I guess. And if you stay for a year, you get benefits from your boyfriend or girlfriend?
Well, see, yes, that's true, but it's even worse than that. I had several state employees that joked with me yesterday. He said, I've got a friend that doesn't have any coverage. I'm just going to have him move in. I'm going to say, yep, they lived here a year. He needs to get on his benefits now, or she.
Yeah. I mean, how could you discern? I mean, you would have no way of knowing if they're romantic or just roommates, right?
Right. And they could just, sign an affidavit that somebody lived there for a year.
And that would be that.
That's the only thing that would, the only requirement is 1 year.
We'll continue.
18 or over.
We'll continue with Rick Jones, the state representative from Grand Ledge, and your calls, too, at 888-900-9966 on the matter right after this. Yeah, 888-900-9966 for your thoughts on this. Rick Jones is with us, the state representative, soon to be state senator, and the state officials, some of them anyway, want to spend about $6 million or more next year to extend health insurance benefits to unmarried same-sex partners of state employees. And we understand now that it's not just that you don't have to be same-sex. It can just be boyfriend and girlfriend living together for 1 year, and they sign an affidavit, as Representative Jones tells us, and he's against it. Now, Representative Jones, I understand, too, that the partner's dependents would also be covered.
That's correct. So if somebody comes with 6 kids into your home, you're a state worker, they're all signed up.
Are there any other models where this kind of benefit is extended? In other words, do private companies extend benefits to boyfriends and girlfriends and that kind of thing?
I'm not personally aware of any private companies. I am aware that there's several universities that do this.
For same-sex partners or just plain partners in the first place?
Partners, period.
Is that right? All right. So, as you say, there would be really no way to ascertain whether this was a roommate situation or people living together, and the state would be footing the bill for it.
Yes, the rules are 18 or older, not a relative, and I just don't think the taxpayers can afford an additional burden at this time.
It is interesting because, as you say, somebody could say, well, hey, Mary Lou, you've got 3 kids. I know you're at a tough time. You're unemployed right now. Why don't you just move in with me for a year? Or, move in with me, period. I'll sign the thing that says you've been here. And all of a sudden, everybody's covered.
Yes, and I'm sure they'll argue that that won't happen, but state employees have personally told me it could happen, would happen, and a lot of them are calling and saying, I object to this thing. I'm worried about my job next year. I don't want more costs, so we get laid off, and we're hoping that this thing is stopped.
What's the point of doing this if very soon we're going to have national health care available to all of us anyway?
Well, I guess that's a debate. Why would we do it now if that's coming?
Mm-hmm. Okay, what happens next then?
Well, yesterday I couldn't get a date out of the Civil Service Commission after my protest. They did not take a vote. They chose to table it, but they did not announce the date that they would be taking it up.
Okay, so it's just out there at the moment. And you're right, several Michigan universities, including the University of Michigan, MSU, Wayne State, have used similar wording to extend health benefits to same-sex or unmarried partners. And some municipalities have enacted change too, like Ann Arbor in Washtenaw County and Ingham County. But now it may be available to state workers. We'll see. I appreciate you being available so early this morning. What's on your docket today? It sounds like there is no rest for you. You're at it even when we're out of session, huh?
Well, I think the people pay me to work, and I'm never out of session. I'm always looking into what the problems are of the state. I've got a number of things today. I'll be at the Capitol having meetings, just like I did yesterday.
How much different will it be in making the move over to the state Senate from the House of Representatives? What do you expect to be the most? Obviously, there are fewer of you, but I mean, what will it mean in terms of what your job is?
Well, it'll increase my duties because instead of just serving Eaton County, I'll be serving Barry and Allegan. So I'll have wonderful towns like Hastings, Middleville, Holland, Saugatuck. So I will be doing a great deal of driving. But as a former police officer, I've always enjoyed driving, enjoyed seeing the diversity in Michigan.
One of our radio stations is in Hastings, so you're speaking to your choir when you talk with us in the morning, and we appreciate that very much.
Yes, glad to do it anytime.
All right, travel safely. Rick Jones, soon to be state senator. Your calls are welcome at 888-900-9966. He's telling us that state officials want to spend about $6 million or more to extend health insurance benefits to unmarried partners and same-sex partners of state employees, plus the dependents that would come along, as long as they've lived in the house for a year. And sign an affidavit that says they have. There's Congressman Mark Schauer. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, MPS. How are you?
Good. Can you tell us about the DREAM Act and whether you supported it? What is it?
I did support it. It is, I think, a model for how immigration reform can happen. And here's, I've seen young people in my own community in Battle Creek who actually came here brought by their parents to the U.S. So they didn't choose to come here. They've lived their entire life here, gone to our public schools, have played by the rules, and actually are denied the ability to go to college under current law. And actually under current law, they are required to go back to a country that they don't know, Mexico, another country in Latin America, so forth. So what the DREAM Act does is says if they've lived here at least 5 years, they're between the ages of 16 and 19, they serve in the military for 2 years, go to college for 2 years, speak English, go through extensive criminal background checks, are good citizens, that they could be eligible for citizenship after a period of time. So it is for a very narrow band of young people.
It sounds very reasonable, except the problem is it's going to the U.S. Senate today where the word is that the DREAM Act will die. But Congressman Schauer, thanks for explaining it to us. We appreciate that very much. Talk again soon, 14 before the hour. Christina Aguilera in the news, not just for the snowstorm that's headed toward Michigan, but also for the flurry caused by her naked pictures, which have been leaked, semi-naked pictures of her, I guess in her walk-in closet that were stolen from her house. I get a little bit dubious when this kind of thing happens because you begin to wonder if maybe it's a publicity stunt where, you want to get in the news, release a couple half-naked pictures, complain that somebody stole them, and all of a sudden you're talked about on a morning radio show just like we are right now, and in print and all the rest. There was a lot of talk about the jobless rate in Michigan being 15%, and that we've just extended the unemployment benefits for another 13 months. And it reminded me of the Albert Brooks movie Lost in America. If you've ever seen that movie, Albert Brooks was an advertising executive and found himself, he and his wife Julie Haggerty wanted to hit the road, and they liquidated everything and they bought an RV. And they went through Las Vegas and lost all their money on their way to just sort of traveling the country. So he ends up in this little small town with no money and this RV somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And he goes into the unemployment office, having been an advertising executive, looking for a job. And there are some people now who can relate, who had big white-collar jobs, who are searching. And here's that clip from the movie.
So, Mr. Howard, what can we do for you?
I need work.
All right. What has been your previous work experience?
For the last 8 years, I was with Ross and McMahon. The last 4 of those, I was creative director. You're familiar with them?
No.
Advertising agency, one of the biggest in the world. And before that, I worked in and out of advertising, nothing to speak of, for about 5 years. Worked in a catering truck for 7 months in Pittsburgh and made food. I worked at a crisis center for 3 months. Not dealing directly with, a couple of crises, but more just answering the phone, the regular phone, not the crisis. And then in high school, I worked at a stuffed fruit place.
We don't have to go back that far, more recent.
All right, well, advertising, 8 years, Ross and McMahon.
What was your previous salary?
$80,000 was the base salary, and then I was in a bonus situation, which would give me anywhere from 15 to 25, depending on, the year that we had, and generally $100,000.
$100,000? Over what period of time are we talking about?
A year.
A year?
What's so funny?
Nothing. That's very good. What brings you around these parts? Trying to double up on that income?
Well, I've come here to live. I'm trying to change my life.
You couldn't change your life on $100,000?
What have you got for me? Any jobs?
I don't have anything right now. What I do have, you wouldn't be interested in. Well, why don't you check back with me in a month?
Well, you don't know that. I'm very interested. What do you have?
Coming from your position and your salary, you wouldn't be interested in it.
Well, you don't know me. I might love it. What is it?
A crossing guard.
What is that? A crossing guard?
A crossing guard.
At a school?
Where else have you seen them work?
I just didn't know if there were different kinds. What does that pay?
$100,000.
What does it really pay?
It pays $5.50 an hour plus benefits.
And the benefits meaning?
You get a ride to and from school if you need it.
Do you have anything at all? Can you rack your brain? Something maybe in the executive file, or maybe you have a white collar box or something?
What sort of box would that be?
Just a box of higher paying jobs.
Oh, I know. You mean the $100,000 box.
Well, I'm glad I could be your morning's entertainment, but I want to tell you something. I made a statement.
A statement?
Yes. Did you see Easy Rider?
No. I saw Easy Money. Rodney Dangerfield, I like him. You know that, no respect, but it's funny.
I know who he is.
That's Albert Brooks in Lost in America, who ended up being a crossing guard in that picture. And then, of course, they decided, well, let's chuck it all and go back to New York and do our advertising jobs all over again. Back then, you could get advertising jobs. We'll continue with your Thursday morning. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Don't forget, tonight I'll be at Walnut Hills Golf and Country Club, open to the public in the East Lansing area, signing copies of my new book, Invite Yourself to the Party. That's from 5 till 7. It's a happy hour. There'll be hors d'oeuvres and lots of fun. And even if you don't want the book, come on out and say hello at Walnut Hills from 5 till 7 tonight. Invite yourself to the party. And if you go to inviteyourselftotheparty.com, you have the full schedule of signings and appearances all through the holidays. There are a number of them this weekend. But tonight it's Walnut Hills, and I'll be very happy to see you there. We'll continue, as I said, with you and your Thursday morning right after the news. Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Thursday to you. Michael Patrick Shields, heard all across the state of Michigan. It's 7 minutes after the hour. Let's not let Congressman Pete Hoekstra, the Republican from Holland, West Michigan, wait. He's with us on the other end of our line. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Michael Patrick.
We were talking with Congressman Schauer a few minutes ago about the DREAM Act and the fact that it, as I understand, passed the House yesterday. Did you vote in favor of the DREAM Act or against it?
No, I voted against the DREAM Act. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on immigration. And I think the DREAM Act deals with one of the more difficult parts of immigration. Those people that came here as little kids, they're now 18 years old, and kind of like they're here illegally. It creates problems for them. But if we're going to do immigration, let's do it in a comprehensive way, and let's not start off by granting amnesty to a whole bunch of folks, and at the same time give them advantages that some of our own kids might not have.
Congressman Schauer made it sound like it was a fairly rigorous path to citizenship, and that it really only applied to a small sliver of immigrant children. In other words, they have to have been in the country, I think, 5 years or something like that, and they have to be between the ages of, what was it? They were teenagers, right?
Yeah, that's right. But they had to come here when they were kids and these types of things.
Which means they didn't
sure,
come
it
by...
is a rigorous path. Guess what, Michael? Getting to become a U.S. citizen should be a rigorous path. It is for anybody who's trying to get here legally. I'm sure that Congressman Schauer's in his congressional office has the same thing that I have. We have staff that work with people who are trying to come here legally, people who are trying to follow the rules, and it is a very, very rigorous path if you're trying to get here legally. And what we've done, I don't think the DREAM Act is going to go through the Senate, but if it did go through the Senate, we would be providing an accelerated way for these people to move ahead of a lot of people who have spent a lot of time and energy and funds trying to get here legally.
Mm-hmm. And those kids, though, obviously, if they came here at that age, they didn't come by choice. They were brought by their parents, yeah?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. There are a lot of sympathetic arguments in favor of that you can make in favor of the DREAM Act.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I thought that the DREAM Act, number one, was initially a bad step to take on immigration reform, and I thought that it just goes way too far. There's a lot of unanswered questions about the DREAM Act, that if you provide a path for legal citizenship for these individuals, do they become anchor kids? What are the rights and the privileges that are given to those that, to their parents, to their siblings and these types of things, and provide them with a new path to citizenship? Is it fair to provide these kids with in-state tuition around the country where if, my kids want to go to school somewhere else in the country, guess what? They're paying out-of-state tuition. Yeah. So,
I see.
There's lots of questions about the DREAM Act.
Are you comfortable with the deal made that the Bush-era tax cuts are extended to everybody, seems like in return for the 13-month extension of the unemployment benefits? Is that a fair trade?
It may be a fair trade, but overall, we're taking a really hard look at this. It ends up adding a whole bunch of money to our national debt. It's all about reducing taxes, which I think will help the economy, or it's all about continuing current tax rates, which I think will help the economy rather than increasing taxes. It's about helping people who have been unemployed for an extended period of time. But there's no spending restraint in here at all. That says, we're going to scale back these other programs. We're not going to end up spending all of the stimulus money that came out of the stimulus package that Congress approved early in 2009 that hasn't had much of an impact on the economy at all, hasn't had much of an impact on jobs at all. So what it ends up doing, it's the way Washington has done a lot of things, and the thing that concerns people about Washington is we just keep spending, and we're not showing any kind of restraint. So, we're going to take a real hard look at this. I'm not sure that I'm going to be voting for this package.
Well, when will the vote come?
Whenever Nancy Pelosi decides that she wants to have the vote. She is still the Speaker of the House, and the other thing that may happen on this, we may not even vote on the agreement that the President made with some of the GOP leadership. Nancy Pelosi will not only decide when the vote will take place, she will also decide exactly what vote will take place. What will we vote on? Right now, there's a lot of discussion among Democrats on Capitol Hill that they're going to change this package, and by the time we even have a vote on it in the House, it may look very, very different than what it does today.
So it's not a done deal by any means.
I don't think it's a done deal at all. You've got a lot of Democrats who have expressed their frustration and anger to the president about the agreement that they perceive that he's reached. They feel that they weren't part of the negotiations and that this was kind of dumped in their lap as a completed project rather than as something that they feel ownership for because they were sitting at the table. It's really one of the few times that this president has sat down and tried to work an agreement out, and it's very interesting as he's tried to do that. Now the Democrats, especially the Democrats in the House, believe that they've been cut out of the process.
Well, yeah, that Democratic Party seems to be splintering at the federal level, doesn't it?
It does, but they're going through a transition period right now. They took a massive whack, in the elections. I'm sure that Speaker Pelosi and soon-to-be Minority Leader Pelosi, they'll get their act back together. Whether I agree with them politically or not, Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer, they've been a talented group.
What was your favorite toy when you were growing up? Your Christmas toy?
My favorite Christmas toy, I'll tell you, I always played with blocks. Just block building things and not anything elaborate and those kinds of things. Just stacking them and then probably getting a couple of balls and knocking things down, knocking them down, building them up and knocking them down.
Yeah, you see that when we were kids, all this electronic gadgetry wasn't available to us, and we're going to speak right now. The reason I ask you is we're going to speak to the head of toys for Toys R Us about the hot toys, and you've got enough to play with there in Washington for the next couple of weeks anyway. But we'll keep in touch and talk again before the holiday.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A guy who liked to build things. Congressman Pete Hoekstra. Bob Friedland, as I mentioned, from Toys R Us is with us. Happy Christmas to you, sir.
Merry Christmas to you as well.
You heard that? The congressman, all he wanted was some blocks and a ball, and he was happy. Those days are over, aren't they?
Blocks, balls, classic toys like that, they're always a lot of fun, no matter what year it is, no matter how old you are, I still like playing with those types of toys.
You know what? I saw that IKEA has given every single employee of their company a bike this year. That's kind of a classic Christmas gift, too, isn't it?
Absolutely. Bikes are definitely always a very popular gift. We have, as you know from our song, bikes, trains, video games. We have a lot of bikes in our stores.
We looked around the studio here for toys, and Rachel Chavez, our production assistant, has them all lined up in front of there. If you could hold those. This is all we could find in the radio studio are my toys. What is that one, Rachel?
This looks like a Irish double-decker bus.
Yeah, it's a little iron-cast Irish double-decker bus from Dublin. And what else have we got there?
We also have this little airplane, United States airplane.
That's a space shuttle, by the
shuttle.
way. Yeah.
Dang it.
It looks like an airplane.
Oh, yeah.
You see a
Looks like
space
this,
shuttle
I
toy.
guess.
Another iron cast. I keep them on the desk here with me. And what's that? What's that one there?
This is a little yellow Volkswagen Beetle, looks like, with a
Yeah, surfboard on top. So those are my, and then I got one more toy that I keep right here in arms because they make you feel good just to have toys around, right?
Yep. This is looks like the Jameson whiskey delivery truck.
That really makes me happy. You know what I mean? So those are the toys we found around here. But what are the toys kids will be standing in line for? They'll be telling Santa when they're on his knee they want for Christmas this year from Toys R Us.
There are a lot of great toys out there this year, and we put together our hot toy list a little bit earlier in the year, and these are really the toys that are topping kids' wish list.
Yeah.
So for baby's first Christmas, we have a fun toy called the Stride to Ride Dino, and this is both a ride-on and a walking toy. So it's for a lot of different ages, from 9 months up to about 3 years. The cool thing about it is it looks like a little green dinosaur. Before kids can walk, they can ride on it. When they first start to toddle, you can open the legs in the back, and they'll start walking behind the dinosaur to help steady their balance.
They can grow into it, and it helps them a little bit. What else?
Absolutely. For a little bit older, 13 months to 2 years, we have the Little Zoomer Spin and Sound Speedway. And this is a fun little racetrack for kids, but it's for younger kids, so it's about 6 months and up. The cool thing about it is these cars, instead of having 4 individual wheels, have one big ball in the middle, so it's really easy for little kids to move the car around.
Mm-hmm.
When they're playing with the racetrack, all they do is they flip a switch, and it's a really big switch because, 6-month-olds need to be able to grasp it. And the center of the track starts spinning around and then starts shooting the cars out through the finish line. So, of course, the first car out is the one that wins.
There, I know what I'm going to get Roger Curtis at the Michigan International Speedway for Christmas this year. Of course, he's in his 50s, but I think he'll still like it. It's fun to have toys around. And Toys R Us is obviously the leader in that sort of thing. Thank you very much, Mr. Friedland. Merry Christmas to everyone. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Well, the last time I saw the great Lou Holtz was at the Academy of the Sacred Heart in Bloomfield Hills. My good friend Hoot McInerney, the car dealer, was among a group of people, brought him in to speak to young people there, and they had on the set, it looked like sort of like a Notre Dame locker room, and Lou Holtz, no matter what your age, if you're 8 or 80, holds your attention because in addition to being a very famous college football coach and TV presenter, he is one of the finest motivational speakers and one of the most sincere people you'll ever meet anywhere in the world, and he's nice enough to join us this morning. Good morning, Coach Holtz.
Good morning. Delighted to be with you. Thank you for those kind words.
I sure appreciate it, and I'll mention your name to Hoot when I see him in a couple of weeks at a little Christmas lunch. I know that
he's the best. What a heart he has. Unbelievable.
I saw you speak when I was much younger. It was in Detroit on St. Patrick's Day, and I had a bit of a morning, and you were at the Renaissance Center downtown there, and I was a very young guy, and I saw you talk about your win strategy, what's important now, and I have to tell you that changed my life, as did your list of 100 goals or more that you wanted to accomplish that you wrote out, and to me, that has also changed my life because I followed your strategy every step of the way.
Well, thank you. I think everybody needs 4 things in life: something to do, someone to love, and something to hope for. And something to hope for is nothing more than having dreams. That's what really motivates people.
Yeah, in fact, I had a chance to sit down with you, if you remember, at the BMW Charity Classic in Carolina. You were playing in that golf tournament there at the Cliffs.
Yes, sir.
And we sat down at lunch, and I did a little story with you for Golf Magazine, and I got a letter from you shortly after that from your office. You were coaching at South Carolina at the time, and I was so impressed. I thought, why does Lou Holtz have to send? I must have passed you my card, and you were nice enough to send a note. And that's another great lesson for people. If you take time to write someone a thank you note, it goes a long way, doesn't it?
Well, you know, people don't say thank you enough to different people. We're so fortunate and blessed to have so many people who have done great things for us. And that's why I got involved in the AFCA All-State Good Works team, where, you know, you recognize people who do great things for other people, and they do it unselfishly, not because they're going to get recognized or receive a plaque or something like that. You know, you take Michigan State's quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and the great things he has done for the community, as well as being a great quarterback.
Yeah, and, you know, I was thinking about, you know, the sacrifice, and we call it a sacrifice, but these young people receive a college education in return for playing college football, and their lives are never the same. They all talk about it, they get together, and they gather. And I see yesterday that Urban Meyer has decided to step down to spend time with his family and from the University of Florida. And we see he's a very intense guy. He had some health issues. And we hear about college football coaches making the sacrifice of coaching and that they're never with their families. They're always on the road. They work 24 hours a day. Does it have to be that way in your experience, or is it because the kind of people who choose to be football coaches are intensely competitive and they make it that way?
Well, you know, if you're going to be successful in TV or in coaching, it's going to be because you and your family have to make sacrifices. There's no way around it. Your success in anything, you're going to have to pay a price. Now, losers call that punishment. Urban coached for me at Notre Dame, very close to Urban, talked to him last night. And once you're on top, people don't understand this. Once you win a championship, everybody expects you to be absolutely perfect. And all you hear about is criticism and the pressure on you to win. There's more pressure to win when you're on top than there is when you're losing, because people don't expect much from you. And as Bear Bryant once said, if you can live without coaching, don't bother to coach. It's got to be part of your life. And I understand what Urban goes through. You're away from your children. You don't get a chance to see them play their athletic contest. And talking to Urban last night, he wants to do that. He's not going to bypass his children's lives. When you're on top and you work hard, we finished second in the country in Notre Dame. Everybody called me an idiot. And you say, man, nobody appreciates what I'm doing, and here I am. I'm abusing or neglecting my family, and I'm not going to do that any longer.
Yeah, you know, I used to have the chance to speak to Gary Moeller when he was coaching Michigan because I was producing the J.P. McCarthy show in Detroit. And Gary Moeller used to tell me, you know, we've really made it unpleasant for these kids because if they lose one game, they think their season is over. And losing is part of learning. And he felt that the college football experience had become too intense. Is that fair to say?
I think there's been some change. I think the Internet has really presented a lot of problems for coaches. I think the Internet made it very, very difficult, yet at the same time, a lot of positive things about it. But what he was saying, he replaced Bo Schembechler. They're used to winning. You don't lose at Michigan. If you lose 2 games, the season's an absolute disaster, but everything's relative. And it's just hard to put into words how you feel when you lose. You're absolutely devastated. You feel like you left everybody down, and you're going to have to work harder to make sure that doesn't occur again.
So you've got people listening to you right now who are driving to work that aren't college football coaches, but they're putting their effort, all of their effort, into their job, maybe even just to keep their job in the economy that we're in right now. How do they want your win strategy too? What's important now? How do they win in the workplace and still win at home? How do you find the balance between work?
Here's what I say. On your desk, put 3 questions. Will this help me achieve my goal at work? Will this help my family? Is this something I want to do? If the answer is yes to any of those 3, do it. If the answer is no to any of those 3, don't do it. Because your priorities has to be your family, your faith, and your profession. And everything else, we lose sight of it. You know, that's the thing that when I look at it, you know, the All-State Sugar Bowl, we're going to bring 22 football players that aren't involved in bowl games at that time down to New Orleans, where they're going to be involved in working in the lower area of Ward 9 where Katrina hit. In other words, try to make sure that what you're doing is important to other people. And ask yourself this question. Everybody's driving. If you didn't show up, who would miss you and why? If you didn't go home, would your family not miss you? And if they did, why? If you didn't go to work, would your employees miss you? The point is, let's make sure we're adding value to other people's lives, and that's what the AFCA All-State Good Works team has done, and that's why we recognize them.
And you'll be announcing the Good Works team captain live on Home Depot ESPNU College Football Awards show. That'll be tonight, and the event, the All-State AFCA Good Works team, just before the Sugar Bowl. If you were the athletic director at the University of Michigan, would you wait till after the bowl games to decide whether Rich Rodriguez should stay or not, or would you get behind him or let him go now?
As the AD, that'd be his choice. I think let's wait and see what happens in the bowl game. Mississippi State doesn't have a great reputation, but I want to tell you, Michigan fans, they're a pretty good football team, and you better button your chin strap and bring your lunch pails, because it's going to be a full day's work when you play Mississippi State. They're an unrated team. But if Michigan loses that football game, there'll be a big outcry. I think it works. What has to happen, Rich Rodriguez has to get his defense straight.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, Coach, for the inspiration. I know you're busy this morning, got a long way to go today, and it's great to hear your voice again. And I know that are there any items left on that list of more than 100 goals you made when you were a young man that you haven't done yet?
I have 6 of them. I haven't gone to Pamplona and run with the Bulls because I can't find a slower person. I can't speak a foreign language. If anybody wants to buy a lot of tapes on how to speak Spanish, I have them. I haven't been on an African picture safari, but I have been to the zoo with a camera, but I don't think that covers, and a couple others.
Okay. Well, good luck with the rest of them. They're all achievable, and we hope you at least enjoy today, and Happy New Year to you, too.
Thank you, and Happy New Year and holiday season.
Thank you very much to Lou Holtz, the football coach from Notre Dame. Now, see, here's the deal. He made a list of more than 100 things. He sat down and said, I got to have some direction when he was a young man. And I write about it in my book, Invite Yourself to the Party, because this strategy of Lou Holtz had such an impact on me. He made a list. I think it was 106, if I'm not mistaken. And like you heard him say, there were about 6 that he hasn't accomplished yet. Can you imagine? He wrote down 106 things with no limits, just said, what would I really like to do? And suddenly, those goals, those dreams, became goals. And they happened for him. He met the president, he was on The Tonight Show, coached at Notre Dame, you name it. So in the book, I tell the story about how when I was 19 years old, I took out a piece of paper, and I can remember, it was a powder blue piece of stationery, and I put it in a typewriter, not a computer, it was a typewriter at the time, and I typed out 100 things that I wanted to do too. And the amazing thing to me is a lot of them happened with almost no effort. In other words, because I somehow committed them to the piece of paper, and in my subconscious, some of these wishes, these goals, came true with no effort, just because somehow, subconsciously, I knew I was working toward it because I had committed to it on a piece of paper. At least that's how I think it works. Some of them, when I had the opportunity, when I was near the chance to do something, I remembered, oh, I've got that on a piece of paper. I ought to get that done because I might not be this close to it again. Now, there were some, of course, for me, a lot more for me that haven't come true yet, but I'm still working on it. One of them, just for fun, I said that I wanted to win $10,000 in one night in a casino. That one has not come close. But I was at Firekeepers yesterday, and I won $15 in one afternoon. That's way short. I did win $2,000 one time, but never close to $10,000. But that one's just sort of a fun one. Some of the others where I would like to meet the president, and I got to meet President Bush on a number of occasions. I wanted to see Paris, and I've been to Paris 3 times. I wanted to be married, and I've been married 3 times. And so some of these goals are fantastic. And I write about it in Invite Yourself to the Party. I also write about Coach Holtz's win strategy. He says you want to win. If you want to win, whether it's a good grade in school or a sales call you're making or a job you want to get or whatever it might be, you have to prioritize toward that win. Win, W-I-N. What's important now? And if you're thinking about your goal and you're deciding what to do today and you're prioritizing what you're going to do, what's important now to W-I-N to win? What do I have to do? And what do I have to do first at the top of the list to advance myself toward my goal, to win? What's important now? Is it, lying on the couch watching Oprah? Is it being with your family? Is it going to the gym? Is it studying or learning a foreign language or looking for a job? What's important now to help you win? All of this is in the book Invite Yourself to the Party, thanks to Coach Lou Holtz. And you can join us tonight at Walnut Hills Country Club. I'll be there from 5 till 7 for happy hour, signing copies of the book and just shaking hands and saying hello to you. And don't forget tonight, Lou Holtz is on the Home Depot ESPNU College Football Awards show. He'll be announcing the captain of the 2010 All-State AFCA Good Works team. I'm Michael Patrick Shields. It's my pleasure to have you with us on this Thursday morning. Well, here in the state of Michigan, we have lots of celebrities around. 50 Cent, we heard, is going to debut his movie in Grand Rapids, and Val Kilmer will be there, too, and they were shooting down there in Monroe Center last Sunday, shut down the streets and all that sort of thing. But another very, very famous person who maybe came to our knowledge first during, unfortunately, his sister's funeral, the funeral of Princess Diana, is Earl Spencer, Charles Earl Spencer, the 9th Earl. In fact, the brother of the late Princess Diana, who gave, if you'll recall, a very impassioned eulogy right there in Westminster Abbey. And he did so while Prince Charles obviously was looking on. And the talk was spellbinding because there were a lot of people who blamed Prince Charles for the way that he treated Princess Diana, that forced her out into the arms of the man she was killed with in the car while the paparazzi were chasing him. And Ginny Seaforth is with us, the program chair for the Economic Club of Grand Rapids, and Earl Spencer will be in, as I understand it, to speak on Monday, January 10th. True?
Yes, Michael Patrick, he is coming. We are very honored to have him come and spend some time with us at the Economic Club. And as you may be aware, the Grand Rapids Art Museum is hosting the Princess Diana exhibition through February the 15th, and he is coming as really the senior member of the family and the Althorp estate to represent the exhibition and to share a little bit about Diana's impact on the world.
The program, as I understand, is how the Princess Philanthropy helped position Britain throughout the world and, in fact, reposition Britain in the minds of some people and almost change the way the royal family did business from a PR standpoint, if you know what I mean, right?
Well, exactly. And if for those of us who have not understood the history of Diana, I think probably in the next generation or two we will see this even more. And I think in the Will and Kate wedding coming up, we'll learn just really how a princess can influence the monarch and then ultimately, in her case, the country and beyond. And some of it ties to the charities that she selected to support. As you probably know and remember, Princess Diana, in a very controversial move, went to Afghanistan very early on, related to the landmines that were being planted inappropriately from a war games perspective. She was a very outspoken advocate of putting research dollars into the AIDS study at that time, and so she really she touched lepers and things that just weren't princess-like.
Yeah,
and that really set the course of the monarch. Maybe not in a positive way at that time, but in the long term, she became the people's princess.
And don't forget, she danced with, I remember her dancing with John Travolta in the East Room of the White House, quite famously, if you remember. And it wasn't a waltz. I mean, they were out there having a time of it. And these are the images that we can never forget. Now, everyone around Grand Rapids, we're going to have to sort of brush up on our protocol, are we not, when we have an Earl coming to town?
Well, those of us who have not curtsied since we were little girls are learning the protocol. We actually address him if we are talking to him directly as Lord Spencer.
Lord Spencer.
And he is very, having talked with him about this presentation, he is very warm and comfortable in traveling. He's an author, and he does actually a lot of journalism and broadcasting throughout Europe. And, I think he'll be much more comfortable than we anticipate, but he's also very captured, I guess is probably the best word, by the images that the institution has pulled together in the Princess Diana exhibition.
Well.
You will see in what we're drawing just thousands of people from all over the state and beyond on right now is Princess Diana's dress, her wedding dress.
Yeah, we talked to someone from the exhibit, and that's one of the neat things. And we'll see you at the exhibit, Ginny Seaforth, and at the Economic Club of Grand Rapids with His Lordship Earl Spencer on January 10th.
When the rain set in.
10 minutes before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields heard all across the state of Michigan. Very glad to have you with us this morning. And we're going to talk with Kerry Campbell in just a minute, who is he's a globetrotter, man. He's the Walter Mitty. He's everywhere, and we'll find out where he's been lately. But first, a little bit of sports. We know that yesterday the Nashville Predators were in town at Joe Louis Arena to play the Detroit Red Wings, and Ken Kal, the radio broadcaster, was there.
Thanks, Michael Patrick. J.P. Dumont scored the game-winning goal late in the third period as the Nashville Predators defeated the Red Wings 3-2 last night at Joe Louis Arena. It was the third straight loss for the Red Wings. Detroit plays Montreal in Hockeytown on Friday night. Colin Wilson scored at 19:27 of the first period to give Nashville a 1-0 lead. The Predators outshot Detroit 14-8. Martin Erat scored 49 seconds into the second period. Pavel Datsyuk netted a shorthanded goal while Thomas Holmstrom was off for high sticking. It was 2-1 Predators after 40 minutes. Dumont scored with 5:23 left in regulation. Johan Franzen netted a goal with Jimmy Howard pulled for the extra attacker to make it 3-2. But the Predators held on for their 13th victory of the season. Detroit outshot Nashville 37-24. Again, the final score in Detroit, Nashville 3 and the Red Wings 2. That's the story from Joe Louis Arena. Now back to you, Michael Patrick, in the studio.
Always good to have an Original Six matchup in Detroit. The Canadians and the Red Wings Friday night. Pistons lost to the Hornets yesterday. They go play the Timberwolves now, and then they come back to the Palace of Auburn Hills. And the season is over for defensive end Kyle Vanden Bosch from the Detroit Lions. That's too bad because he's a lot of fun to watch. He had surgery following a bulging disc in his neck. Detroit has the Green Bay Packers Sunday at Ford Field. Ndamukong Suh, $15,000 fine for pushing Jay Cutler down, the Bears quarterback. And Urban Myers decided to step down as the head football coach of the Florida Gators after the Outback Bowl in Tampa. Last year he announced he was retiring but came back. That was for health reasons. He says this is for family reasons. He wants to be around his kids. And Mike Krzyzewski yesterday, well, his 877th career win when Duke blew out Bradley at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So now Mike Krzyzewski is passed Adolph Rupp, sole possession of third place all-time in wins. Kerry Campbell is with us from Walnut Hills Country Club. He also works with the Michigan State Spartan golf team and lots of other projects around the country. And let's see, where were you? I mean, every time I talk to you, you're either at the Rose Bowl or the Olympics or where were you this week?
I've been spending a little time in Carolina the last week. I went down for the big Duke-Michigan State game, and then one of our partners is the coach of the Denver Nuggets, and he's going for his 1,000th win. And so we went down to Charlotte to see if he could obtain that lofty achievement, but he's still one game short. I'd have to follow him to Toronto.
Somebody spoiled his party there, huh?
Yeah, it came down to a Chauncey Billups shot at the buzzer, and he came up a little bit short, so it was an exciting night, that's for sure.
Why does MSU struggle against those big-name teams at this time of year, you think? It's happened the last 3 years in a row that I can count.
Well, I think, from my opinion, whatever that's worth, is that we kind of use the early games to find ourselves and and switch our rotations around. And the other teams, when they play a big game, they want to get ranked a little higher, so they treat it like a tournament game, and they go with their top 7 or 6 or 8, and they seem to be all their scorers are on the court at all the time, where we're trying to find ourselves, and so maybe we don't play our top guys as much as they do.
Well, I'd rather have the experience and then make a good run in the NCAA than win these games early, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that was the fun thing about Duke, is that's the toughest environment to play in. I mean, they were even hounding the fans there, and Michigan State proved that they can stick close to Duke, and so when it comes to neutral court, and we have a little more experience on the big dome facilities versus what their younger team does. So hopefully we can pull it out when it really matters.
There was some talk on the network news earlier this morning that companies are starting to have Christmas parties again for their employees, where after, a few years ago when the economy was tough, a lot of those things were canceled. At Walnut Hills Country Club, are you noticing a return of the Christmas events and parties?
Yes, we've had a good response, and now with our new dining area, we have a lot of different rooms to offer that we didn't really have before. So we've seen a real upcharge, both because our facilities are better and we offer different size rooms, and then also we've seen that companies are ready to celebrate again.
Well,
Maybe there'll be a few more Christmas bonuses out there for people like yourself.
I don't know about me, but I hope for other people. It's a beautiful facility with big windows in the back that look down over the golf course, and so you get a great view. And we're told by the end of this weekend that's going to be a white Christmas kind of view, because right now you can still see the green grass of the golf course. And I'm looking forward to seeing you tonight. I understand, obviously, again, Copper is open to the public always in Walnut Hills Country Club. It's a dazzling restaurant right there, and we'll be there for happy hour from 5 to 7 tonight to celebrate my new book, Invite Yourself to the Party.
I'm excited about it. On the long trips to Carolina, I read Good Bounces and Bad Lies, so I need another book because I just finished it, and Invite Yourself to the Party is right along my lines.
Well, thank you very
Since
much.
I pushed myself in as a caddy or a spouse that couldn't show up. I try to get into a few events here and there.
You're the guy who's been everywhere, and maybe his crowning glory was sitting next to Courtney Cox at the Rose Bowl. That's Kerry Campbell, Walnut Hills Country Club. We'll see you there tonight from 5 till 7. Television viewers, so long this morning.
Goodbye.
Radio listeners, stay right where you are. We're back with another hour. It's Michael Patrick Shields.
Today, the moon, the bear, and the big blue house will be waiting for you to come and play. To come and play. To come and play. Bye now.